what advice would you have for a rookie who is trying to get into the syndication business? I will tell you that for every 2 deals that come through our door, and we do a lot of business from existing syndicators, there's 1 deal that comes from a new syndicator. That's a pretty good relationship. So we have a lot of brand new rookies out there syndicating. And I'm picking up advice from everyone I interview. So what's your advice, Paul?
Yeah, well, we believe in education. I mean, one of the things we learned early on is the more you learn in your real estate business, the more you're going to earn, right? And so to get educated and make that a focus and a routine goal, that has to be part of your mantra. Specifically getting the education from folks like Eugene and learning and understanding, the first time I heard syndication, it was a foreign word, going back years ago. But when you educate, learn from someone else, you just demystify how to accomplish these goals you might be thinking for yourself. So, the couple of things I'm going to share. 2 traits of success we've seen because we teach investors and we have for over a decade. You got to ask for help. Successful people ask for help. You're not going to just know everything, and enroll other people, right? Enroll people like a Gene. Don't read a book on syndication and then try to get it done cheap with your local real estate attorney, because frankly, it's a recipe for disaster. They don't understand. You want to have experts on what you want to do and execute. So, and then, if you do that, provide value. You gave the example of a client that has a YouTube channel. I think that's great, but provide value first. And then once you've provided value, whatever that means to you and your network, once you've provided value, then people are okay with you asking them for something. But if you start with an ask, hey, we don't know each other that well, I haven't delivered any value to you, but do you want to give me your money? That's not going to work. We didn't start syndicating until we were, from 2006, when we started our real estate education. That means we were giving other people information. We didn't start our first syndication until almost true syndication, almost 2.5 years ago. So we basically were delivering value through how we did it, which was teaching and sharing our systems and how people could win and learn this business. And when we did our first syndication, what we found is that we had delivered such value over a long period of time and created a track record. When we asked for something, everyone was very receptive. And that's my advice for new people. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Deliver value. And then, I'm really glad when I see people working with Eugene, but you have to have the right character, integrity, and values when you borrow other people's money. The last thing I'll say is don't borrow money you don't intend to pay back. Don't borrow money that you don't think you would put your own money in a deal. That just means you don't like the deal. So when we do deals that we syndicate, we're putting in our money and considerably a lot of money sometimes, because for us, it's our answer for how we preserve our capital and continue to own real estate. When I do deals that have more risk and I want to do, but the risk profile is higher, I don't syndicate.
What advice, Mike, would you have for a rookie, someone who's thinking about coming into the syndication business today?
Well, there's 2 things that immediately pop in my mind. One is you certainly surround yourself with good, smart people, and build your team, and protect yourself. The last thing we want to do is do a deal that goes sideways. So we take a lot of pride, and my investors say I sandbag, but it's really analyzing and underwriting conservatively. So we have a long-standing reputation of having happy investors. I think that also comes from a liability protection standpoint, is working with people like Eugene. We certainly have investors, but we don't always know the right thing to do, and don't always understand the legalities that are changing from a legal securities exchange standpoint. So you've been a big part of that, Gene, along the way. So I think
Thanks.
it goes back to building, surrounding yourself with the right people. I think knowing your investors well and personally, for us is very important. I'm not the hugest fan of crowdfunding because of that. I like to have a personal relationship with my investors. We take a lot of pride in making ourselves available. Email, phone calls, text me in the middle of the night if you're an investor with a question. We want that kind of exposure. I know not everybody does, or that kind of availability, because we want to have that relationship.
Yeah, I get that stuff from Derek. You don't bug me like that, but your partner Derek will be on my butt all the time. So I understand.
But I think understanding your investors is really important. Those relationships on your first deal might carry you through your 10th deal, 20th deal. Doing right by them, doing a solid by them with your first relationship, first deal, could create 10 more investors down the road, 20 more investors down the road.
What advice would you have for a rookie, someone who's thinking about coming into the syndication business and doing their first deal?
Well, I'll give two things because the first one's already been brought up, and that is it's best to not go it alone. Find some partners, whether it's someone who is find a partner who brings value to the table that maybe is not your strength, right? So if you're really good at analyzing and finding deals, go find someone who has a big network and can be an actual active partner and help you raise money, or vice versa, right? Maybe you've got a huge network, you can raise a lot of money, partner with somebody who's got more deals than they have money. So definitely build your team. Don't go at it alone, and get a mentor as well, one way or another. And that doesn't have to be that you go pay someone $30,000. A mentor is anybody who has more experience than you, right? And it could be I have mentors that I talk to once every 6 months, and then I have some that I talk to almost weekly, and none of that's paid. I mean, it was in the beginning, but now as you get into it, don't. So I guess what I'm saying is don't have too narrow of a view of what mentorship is, right? Anybody that's done more than you can be a mentor of some kind, and that you can learn from. And then the other thing I would say is just relentless persistence. I would credit that as to one of the reasons that we're still here today. Like I said, to get my first flip, I had to make 4,576 cold calls to get our first deal. I was not good at it. And then to get that first, I mentioned in that first apartment deal, it took 6 months to find the investors to raise that equity. And it was brutal, but if we hadn't persisted, if we hadn't failed to close that deal and lost the deposit and all of that, I don't know if I'd be talking to you today. Right, that might have knocked us out of the game. So just have relentless persistence. Yes, the economy is changing. Yes, we have a pandemic and there's a lot of unknowns, but that does create uncertainty, but it will also create opportunity. So, if you've listened to a lot of us the last 5 years, one of the biggest refrains you hear is, "Oh my gosh, there's no deals. It's so hard to get deals," and that has been the case. I really think there's going to be a lot of opportunity coming the next couple of years, especially if you're new and you're targeting smaller properties, like under 100 units. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there that has not been available for the last 5 or 6 years. So this could really be a great time to get educated and get into the business.
What advice do you have for rookies?
I think really a few things. I mean, one is it's amazing how much of an exponential business this is. Going from 0 to 1, doing your first deal is really, really hard. But going from 1 to 2 is exponentially easier. It's probably 8 or 10 times easier to do your second deal than it is your first deal. So I think, focusing on getting that first deal done.
Get that first one done. So right. That when the investors ask you, "Hey, Michael, have you done this before?" You say, "Hell yes, once."
Yeah. That's right, once, but that's it's a relative business too. It's all relative. If I've done one deal, you've done 0, I'm 100% more experienced than you are, right? So, just knowing that once you get that first deal done, you can really if you're done with care and caution and, you know, being respectful to the investors, you can really grow exponentially. Like I said, in an 8-year period, it went from raising 2 million to 27 million, you know, so almost 15 times the equity raise in an 8-year period, which is pretty amazing. So, you know, doing that, always keeping in mind on your investors, because your investors are your lifeblood. So you have various stakeholders, so trying to be, you know, a good steward to all your stakeholders. So whether that's your investors' capital, the bank who's loaning you money, your management team, your internal employees, making sure that you're having care and respect for everyone along the way. And if you take care of all those people, you know, this is a business where you can do more and more. The people that are kind of coming this and have that win-lose mentality, I win, you lose, tend to not be as successful in this business. You know, and there's many stakeholders, plus all the vendors, your lawyer, your accountant, your real estate brokers, all those people as well are, you know, integral parts of you being successful in this business. You know, so I think taking care of that, and if you have a good reputation among all those people, it's amazing how much more business you're going to do. And, you know, one of the things we really focused on when we did our first, you know, handful of deals, probably first 5 deals, we didn't really make that much money. I mean, we certainly made money, but our splits weren't as high, our fees weren't as large as what we can command today. But really what I was focused on, Gene, was getting a track record and getting the reputation of Michael Becker in the Texas marketplace, being away from being a lender to being a principal in these deals. And if you go out and do, you know, 4 or 5 deals and 1,000 units in a relatively short period of time, like I did, it doesn't take very long for your reputation to kind of solidify. And then once I have a little bit more track record, and especially once you kind of go full cycle on a deal or two, you can probably justify more market rate compensation. You know, so if you're really looking to go, you know, maybe not being quite as worried about the first deal or two, that what your split is going to be in the deal, just making sure you do a good quality deal and deliver results. So, you know, that's a fine line to walk, because I know you always say, you know, you need to make sure that you do have proper compensation in there, because this, if you hit by a bus, the person can take this deal over. It needs to be paid to take these deals on and manage them for you. But, you know, there's certainly a spectrum on what you can charge, and being on the more investor favored when you start out is probably something I would recommend. And then you can always make more money on the next deal or the next deal, up to the point where it's kind of fair compensation, kind of more market rate compensation, which is what I think, you know, we try to focus on.
What piece of advice would you give someone who is thinking about being a syndicator?
You know, Gene, there's actually 3 things. There's 3 things that I found from my own coaching that I do, and I centered the bulletproof cash flow, I guess you want to call it, all the media stuff that we've been recently creating was based around these 3 concepts. The first is mindset. Those limiting beliefs that held me back from when I was a kid up until through adulthood really stopped me from achieving what I felt I could possibly do, to live to my full potential. And now that I'm doing it, it's like I would never go back to corporate, ever, never. It's like to me, it's I can't even think, like there's no way I would ever do that ever again. And it's because of mindset. You know, the mindset was broken when I was young. And now what we do is we focus on mindset. I focus on creating a vision board and to write out your daily goals every single day. So vision board and daily goals. Those things are super, super important, and being around other people that helps strengthen your mindset. So again, we have a show that talks just about mindset. Secondly, sales and marketing. You know, when I was in corporate, I would loathe the sales guy who would come up to us and try to sell me something. And it's funny, Gene, you know, that people don't like to be sold to, but they love buying stuff. You know, it's funny how that works, right? And however, if you're going to be a syndicator in this business, you need to know how to sell yourself, how to sell the project in a way that's not pushy, but in fact, in a way that really conveys the message about the asset to your investor and make them want to invest with you and in the property, right? And it isn't just throwing a bunch of numbers at them. There is a way. There's a way to do it, right? And so we actually have a show just based on how to sell, like how to raise capital, how to do all those sorts of things that are really important to the syndicator. And then the third and foremost is going to be the real estate show, right? And this means becoming really, really good at the terminology that you need to speak the language of real estate. As soon as I hear someone come up to me and say, hey, I found the property, it has a 12 cap, it sounds like a great deal. No, the answer is no, it's not. The answer is no. It's a very basic thing. The higher the cap rate, the higher the risk. The lower the cap rate, the lower the risk, right? And I mean, I know it's just a basic concept, but there's a whole language around real estate that you really have to sit down and study and train. And how do you speak the language of real estate? How do you convey that you know what you're talking about? And all these things are super, super important. These three things are super important to attain any level of success in real estate, especially in the world of syndication. And without these three things, in my opinion, you're creating a whole lot of extra work for yourself, and it can be very, very tricky to build success without it. That's my 2 cents.